Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron for Kaiserreich Armenia. Let us continue on for last off. So I finally figured out, I think I've had this mod installed for a few months now. I finally figured out how the toolbox works. It's this little button right here. I think I've had this installed, I want to say, at least 4 months, if not going on to 5 months now. I've never once used it because I didn't know how to actually turn it on. But look, I figured it out. Fantastic. So, the reason I was definitely trying to figure this out is because, one, we're going to need to eventually join Russia's faction whenever they end up making it. I don't know what the hell Russia's up to. But one day they'll make their faction and then we'll join it. But aside from that, I want to get the Ottoman-Greek peace deal going. Because we have something in our folk tree, like once we actually go national populist, to invade the Ottomans. Okay? And if they're a puppet of Greece, and they end up joining, let's say, the Entente or the Reichspakt or something, it's going to make it way more annoying for me. So we're just going to go, I think it's the politics tool. We're going to select the Ottoman Empire, we're going to select Greece. We should, yes, make peace between them. I can't believe it's taken me this long to actually figure out how this tool works. And then we just use, there's a state transfer tool actually in the tool maker as well. Can I? Maybe it doesn't work here. Okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. State management tool. So we're just going to... We're going to mark all of the states that Greece has a claim on. And then we're just going to give that to Greece. They shouldn't have claims on any of this. They don't. Add cores, add claims, remove claims. Transfer ownership. There we go. So the Ottoman Empire, they got their ass completely handed to them in the Desert War. There was a little bit of cheating involved. Just a little bit, but it's okay. We stand victorious. Today our people have been waiting for generations finally come. We've beaten the notorious Turks and driven them out of our lands. While they weep and mourn for their losses, the people of Armenia celebrate. But they can now once again live in freedom and liberty. However, the victory came at a cost. Many young Armenian men lost their lives, our economy has been utterly destroyed, and the Turkish part of the population beginning to migrate to Anatolia, fearing suppression and persecution under the new Armenian overlords. Still, these losses don't ruin the good mood of the people, at least for the moment. After all, the economy can be rebuilt. Our soldiers knew that they gave their lives for something worth fighting for, and since loyal to the Turkish state would only corrupt our young nation. Nonetheless, there's also been some rather unpleasant developments in our nation's politics. While celebrations are still taking place across the country, the different political parties of our nation have already begun falling out with each other. With the triumph of the Turks, there's no longer an immediate threat unifying our politicians, leading them to now once again fight for their own interest. The Democrats and revolutionaries have demanded free election in order to replace Nzhdeh, arguing that he is no longer needed to continue ruling illegitimate. Meanwhile, Nzhdeh is trying to hold on to power, saying that his victories have earned him the right to rule over the Armenian people. To see the differences between the two sides seems nigh impossible for them to reach an agreement. Our victory has turned our government into a powder keg waiting to explode. So right now, we want an army. We got destroyed economy, which is basically our Black Monday. Social chaos, negative 50% monthly population, 10% good. So actually, we're taking a negative 70%. So how does that monthly population negative 7? I guess so. It's a negative 70% growth. Okay, so we're not losing 70% of the population, which would be a little bit absurd. Okay. Everybody's canceling non-aggression pacts. Dispersed industry is okay. What do we want to get next? We have anti-air guns, but that's not really going to do too much for us. It's 1941 right now. I'm kind of like 1943 is a bit too much. You know what? At 1942 research. There we go. Figured it out. We figured something else so we can actually research here. We're gonna draw an offensive line to the Ottomans. The birth of technochronism. As Nzhdeh returned to Armenia, he realized that none of the established political parties were fully capable of representing his political views. For him, the revolutionaries and Democrats are weak for seeking to legitimize their rule through elections. Furthermore, some of the parties think that we should reconcile with our neighbors and make friends with them. But Nzdeh's views are another sign as weakness. Because of his dissatisfaction with the current Armenian political scene, he's begun looking to other countries for inspiration. One that managed to catch his eye is the Russian behemoth to the north, under the leadership of Boris Savinkov. Russia has taken a nationalist stance and has managed to regain parts of its former glory. It hasn't, because the AI is so far not has not even made the faction or invaded any of its neighbors yet, so they actually have not done any of their former glory. In Nzdeh's eyes, Boris Savinkov is the leader the Russians has always dreamed of, As someone whose example we should follow. In accordance with Russian rhetoric, Armenia too should strive for unity through the power of nationalism. Nzhdeh's goal is ridding our nation of the East, seek to destroy it, and renew the nation's spiritual identity of our people, and become the center of this new ideology, which he had named Tashak Runtian. Essentially translated to race and religion. Two concepts when Nzhdeh wants to turn it into the pillars of our society. Already people throughout Armenia have announced their support for Nzhdeh and its new ideas, and are rallying behind the Eagle of Tehran, the new central icon of the ideology. Okay, 10% national populace. We get another focus. Also, I need to turn off fog of war. So we have 50,000 manpower. We're going to leave the Tabriz Accords, which is absolutely a-okay. We don't want to be in alliance with Iran anymore. We want to eventually join an alliance with Russia whenever they make it. I don't know what they're doing. Like they could be what could they? I mean, they could get their like air forces up. They could be doing naval modernization. I have no idea what Russia's plan is. The final step. Ever since the birth of our new ideology, Nzhdeh and his followers have been working on turning this new ideology into the central political agenda of the state. By now, most of the soldier officers have been severed under Nzhdeh during an independent war, have joined a new organization, arguing that he has shown the qualities of a leader and that his ideas to bring Armenia to glory, and that his ideas will bring Armenia the glory it has always desired. With support of the military, Nzhdeh was able to cement his power without any opposition from the democratic parties, who have by now become too irrelevant to pose any threat to his new regime. Because of this, Nzhdeh has decided that they should not be outright dissolved, instead allowing them to continue to operate within the country. Still, with elections being frowned upon by the Tashkarian, these parties have no real chance of ever coming to power. These new political developments have raised some uncertainty within the population. Although most of our citizens trust Nzhdeh, many view his political course with skepticism. In particular, the minorities within our borders, such as the Azeris and the Turks, are now fearing that their rights and their lives... Okay, I'm going to reread that sentence. In particular, minorities within our borders, such as the Azeris and the Turks, are now fearing for their rights and their lives. I missed a word there. In an address Nzhdeh gave the nation this morning, he once again promised to take any steps necessary to ensure the continued survival of the Armenian people, and gave his word that he would rid our country of all those who stand in the way of his rule and its promised prosperity. A promise that has only fueled the fears of both minorities and the opposition. It remains to be seen if the people will trust Nzhdeh into the end, or if their fear will lead them to divergent paths. So we are now national populace. We have the paternal autocrats in our daily modifier political power gains. Okay, I'm assuming that there's a little colon at the end. Maybe that's breaking that. I don't know. Well, we're not a very popular party right now, but I mean, with the backing of ANLM, we should be pretty okay. So once you are done, we can get our way to Armenia above all. Recruit population negative 25%. Division recovery rate plus 5%. I mean, we're going to get a lot of manpower out of this, so maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. What else do we want to research? I guess we'll just go 1942 techs. Genuinely, I don't know what else do you want. Iran is justifying a war against Hayal. Do you have claims? I'm assuming you do, because otherwise, like, why would you be justifying a claim against them of all people? For Bahrain. Okay, yes, they do have a claim on Bahrain. So, but you're actually not in the Cairo Pact. I mean, neither is Iraq. But they have a front line. But we should be... Yeah, we should be leaving the faction in a few days. So we don't need to get involved in this war. But actually, when is that war going to break out? Oh, like June 30th. We have... June 30th? Yeah, okay. I know how time works. Yeah, so if Iran and Arabia want to go to war, that's none of my business. They can have fun with that. Okay, Armenia above all. And how's the war in Europe going? Basically, right now it's a stalemate, which makes perfect sense, seeing as essentially Germany's only fighting a one-front war. They're not fighting a war against Russia. Which, like, even with... Because you have the Bahari Commune, right? Actually, you don't. The Netherlands is in the German Empire. Greece declared war in Albania. Didn't Albania... No, Albania's just neutral. Okay, I thought Albania joined Austria, but I think that's for the Ukraine campaign. Support for national populism goes up. We'll get our cult of personality. We get expansionism. You should automatically bypass. Wait, Russia. You've done it. You've made your faction. An incredible development. I didn't think it would happen. Estonia's joined the Reichspakt. What I'm going to do now, because again, like I've said previously, I think either episode or 2 episodes ago, that there's not actually an event for Russia to make us join their faction. They get the event to attack us, but obviously that's not what we want. But seeing as we have now developed Sandakov's ideology and implemented it here in Armenia, I think it makes perfect sense, assuming that this works out properly, for us to align ourselves with Russia. Just like that. Okay? Fantastic. So we are now in the Moscow Accord. By the way, did you ratify the Treaty of Poti? You did. So Georgia should end up joining up with Germany at some point. But there we go. Also, why are you invading Tibet? I don't know. You just kind of are. That's none of my business, I guess. Got the Ottoman Empire. At some point, you should... Salvation Cabinet. Oh, wait, no. I think this is, reorganize the Ottoman army. Learn from our failure. Oh, no, this is their Turkish tree. Do you not actually declare Turkey? Ban the OHF. Maybe you don't declare the Republic of Turkey. Maybe you just stay a very sad Ottoman Empire, which I mean, is fine for us. We can train 2 more divisions. Let's go. Well, let's deploy all 3 of these. There we go. And then delete this. We've almost now doubled the size of the Armenian military, which is not just fantastic news for us. We're making outdated rifles. We can upgrade you. And then try to upgrade wherever we can. Of course, we don't have any steel. We have no natural resources whatsoever to actually speak of. Which, I mean, it's a little sad. Don't get me wrong. So how bad is the penalty for being won over? 3.5%? It's not terrible. It should be fine. An age of oppression. With our new ideology growing more powerful and influential by the day, the only thing that they're still afraid of is losing their power. Hence, Nzhdeh decided that certain measures would be taken in order to ensure the survival of a new regime. These measures, which Nzhdeh described as necessary evils that will safeguard the prosperity of the Armenian nation, are mostly aimed at restraining the freedoms and liberties of the Armenian people. Especially concepts such as freedom of speech, freedom of thought, are being disregarded and now being declared poisonous to the integrity of the state. From now on, all newspapers will be controlled and strictly censored by our political party. Publishing critical literature or spreading pamphlets criticizing the government will now officially be declared a crime and will be punished severely. In order to ensure that the people understand that this should not be taken lightly, the party's already ordered the expansion of the most Armenian detention facilities, hoping that increasing their capacities will steer the Armenian people away from critical thought and bring even the most diehard defenders of democratic values into the fold. Yeah, so we're not evil, okay? Ground support, but we have like no. I mean, entrenchment. You know what? Yeah, I'll take an entrenchment guy. He's not very good. But, I mean, we don't have any aircraft, so that doesn't really make any sense for us to take. This just makes the most sense. It just makes the most sense for us. Okay, Greece and Albania have ended hostilities. Greece has taken a territory from them. I mean, Greece easily could have just annexed all of Albania. They could have done it. They could have done it. And nobody would have been able to stop them. I mean, Romania... I mean, Bulgaria is also in the Belgrade Pact. Whenever Russia eventually joined... Like, what are they doing? Doing Christ on the Dawn? I can't believe... It took them until, like, 1941 until they made a faction. I honestly did not know that was even possible. I thought the AI took that focus as soon as they were able to. The return of the Armenian dysphoria. There are thousands of ethnic Armenians living abroad in other parts of the Middle East and even in faraway lands such as Western Europe and the Americas. Also, this has been the case for centuries now, and our people have already been establishing settlements in regions such as Cilicia, Italy, and Cyprus during the Middle Ages, and a crazy number of them have left the region of Greater Armenia as a result of the crimes committed against them by the Ottoman Turks. Especially the massacres of the Vilkrieg convinced many Armenians that staying in their homeland was a risk not worth taking, leading to them leaving their country and seeking their fortune elsewhere, far away from Turkish oppressors. Ever since our nation re-entered the world stage, there has been a steady influx of Armenian immigrants from all around the world seeking to repopulate their homeland, which they formerly believed to be forever lost to the Turks. However, many hesitate to return to the lands of their ancestors, mainly because of the ongoing conflict and the feeling that Armenia's independence was immediately threatened by its power-hungry and ambitious neighbors. Now, though, with us having won the War of Independence and our sovereignty being somewhat secured, these doubts have been cleared up, and the number of immigrants have skyrocketed. Although these immigrants thus far have mainly come from Middle Eastern nations, most of our fellow countrymen currently living in Europe and America have decided not to abandon their lives there. Still, it's a good sign to see that our people are slowly beginning to return to their home. Okay, so we're now getting slightly... Yeah, we're getting a little bit more population. So, I mean, you two are basically just canceling each other out, but we still got the social chaos. But then we also got to revive the economy. Replace destroyed economy with slow economic recovery. We have so many focuses, actually, that we kind of have to do. But I think we want to... I mean, we could go to war against the Ottomans right away. How many men do they actually have? 6 to 20? If we get the backing of the Russian states, we could... Yeah, fine, we'll demobilize. Okay, Ukraine and Russia both declare war on the non-Cuban Union, because I think Ukraine has a few claims here. Yeah, they got some claims down in the south. I always forgot that nationalist Ukraine aligned themselves with Russia to take over the non-Cuban Union. I will join... Okay, wait, is the stability lost? Maybe we shouldn't have joined the war, but I'll join the war for now. Just as a sign of good faith between me and the Russians. Not that I can get to them. We are still a landlocked country. What do we got? We got the Armenian identity, attack bonus against the Ottoman Empire, 2% recruit population. Well, right now, our recruit population's mostly fine. I don't think we got to worry about that too much. Just like wartime ice 3%'s kind of basically ass. But let's get our call to personality, which is going to be 10% stability, 10% war support, recovery rate, political power gain. Actually, it's pretty good. The Expulsion Act. As it seems, the measures currently in place were just for the beginning of Nzhdeh's effort to shatter any resistance against the government. In his eyes, some people currently living inside our country will never be loyal subjects to the regime and thus should be considered enemies of the state. Today, he introduced the Expulsion Act. With this act, he wanted to rid the nation of these taknaks in order to bring our people stability and unity. It states that every Azar and Turk is to leave the territory Armenian state within just a span of 3 weeks. Should they refuse to leave within the time span given, the military will be authorized to expel them from their homes. Should they not comply, use of force is permitted. Naturally, this has sparked outrage among the Muslim population of the country, since Turks and Azaris alike now see themselves being persecuted in the lands both they and their ancestors once called their own. However, the act did not only shock the Muslim parts of the population. Many Armenians are beginning to ask themselves if Nzhdeh really does what is right, and if the expulsion of the people they value as neighbors, friends, and colleagues really is as necessary steps to safeguard the future of the Armenian nation. Many still hope that Nzhdeh heeds the calls of the populace and decides to revoke the act before it unfolds its consequences, though a decision like this seems highly unlikely. I bet since most of the military still blindly follows his orders and support him in his measures without question. So we're going to be losing more of our population. Okay, yeah, so we will be losing a little bit of recruit population, but it shouldn't be too bad. All things considered. How are you guys doing in the north? I mean, Don Kuban, they were able to get a lot of divisions out. Because Russia's attacking them, let's just say, about 3 years later than they normally would. Russia, we're not going to take a non-aggression pact with the Ukrainians for right now. We'll go with the steel 1942 rifles. Seems okay and reasonable. Okay, so the British have landed their way in Hamburg. I don't think Germany will die before we can get ourselves involved. Expected war here. Do we have anybody that's going to give us more stability? Pact defense of core territory, war penalty stability modifier, 5% stability, political power gain. I mean, construction speed's not terrible. I think I'm going to go with, I mean, it's a 5% construction. Now, let's go with Pragmatic Statesman. That just seems like a better choice for us here. Okay, so it looks like we're doing pretty well. Take one more sip of water before I read this event. Let's let the game run a little bit in the background. Okay. Well, Wuhan's fallen. 7 cults. The 7 cults are a concept introduced by Nzhdeh aimed at teaching our people what it means to be a good Armenian. Emphasizing the values of the Armenian nation, these cults from now on will be taught in schools and propagated in newspapers and over the radio. This way, Nzhdeh hopes that he can guide both the younger and older generations in the right direction and turn them into loyal subjects to his cause. These are the 7 cults. These 7 cults are 1, the cult of the motherland, emphasizing the importance of the land in which the Armenian culture first came from, and promoting the devotion worship of said land. 2, the cult of blood, highlighting the spiritual and bodily traits that define the Armenian people and set them aside from other cultures. 3, the cult of language, which forbids our people from learning or speaking any language other than their mother tongue, since this would accelerate the death of this beautiful Armenian language. 4, the cult of the fallen, which says that one should not forget those who gave their lives in the name of Armenia and her people, because of the recent independence war which saw countless Armenian men dying in the field of honor. This cult is especially important to Nzhdeh. The cult of the ancestors. This cult declares that there is a spiritual connection between the different generations of our people, and that this connection ensures that the internal flame of the nation, and thus our sacred traditions, will be passed from one generation to another. 6, the cult of power. This says that the only ones who are strong and brave will survive this cruel world. And 7, the cult of the leader. The Armenian people may not question him or his decisions, and instead trust him to fulfill their destiny. Look, Nzhdeh, look at him. He's a trustworthy guy. I'm sure he will never do anything bad. How is the war over in Don Kuban? I mean, it looks like we should end up winning fairly soon, I'm hoping. Because a lot of Don Kuban units, they do not have any supplies. I'm assuming their only supply of is maybe over here. Now, I mean, they have 3 right now. So I'm kind of surprised they're not getting the supplies they would want. After that, they are going to invade Central Asia. The allies, get more allies into the Russian sphere. Okay, Ireland's going to war on Northern Ireland. Were you in a faction? Yeah, you're in the Reichspact. Okay. But Northern Ireland will not be in any faction. They might pragmatically align themselves with the Union of Britain. I don't know. I don't think they're going to allow British troops to land in the country. But we'll see. Okay, so Ukraine, I think, will be able to take over the capital here very, very soon. And they've also declared war on everybody in Central Asia. Not a huge surprise. 5 to 19, 6 to 20. But again, the fact that Russia's invading so late into the game is going to make things very awkward for them, I think. Because they're going to be facing enemies that are much stronger than they normally would be at this point. But I mean, I guess Russia should also theoretically be stronger than they normally would be at that point as well. Okay, Liberia's been annexed. You know, it was a good fight. You tried your damnedest, but didn't end up succeeding there. I'm gonna say, you're not going to kill Germany before we can intervene, right? The massacres of Yevrin. Today, the streets of the Pink City ran red, agitated by one of Nzhdeh's speeches, in which he emphasized the need for the omnipotent state. Some of his devoted followers saw themselves as invested by a mission to do something about the ever-denounced enemies within. In her eyes, those still seeking to undermine the influence of the party could be found to be in prisons, where former Ottoman administrations are still held, and in the streets, where demonstrations by Muslim citizens were organized against the Expulsion Act. Armed with improvised weapons and a few firearms, the fanatics stormed the capital's prisons and fell upon the peaceful protest. While falling was nothing short of a slaughter. As the demonstrators fled throughout the streets, many were pursued and felled. 5 senators who tried to shield them from violence, sheltered them in their homes, or simply attempted to stand between them and the mob can't be counted among the casualties. In the prisons, however, it seems like the guards simply stood aside, some even joining in. A resentment against the Turks ran high. As for Yevrin's garrison troops, they remained idle. Many of them were receptive to Nzhdeh's rhetoric and believed that by protecting Muslim or pledging their lives are not part of their duty. When night fell, dozens lay dead and many more were injured. News of the massacres spread throughout the country like wildfire. Emergency broadcasts addressing this tragic situation. Nzhdeh attempted to shift the blame onto the victims. Described as conspirators, only blaming those he suggested were merely animated by patriotic fervor for taking justice into their own hands. The narrative seldom convinced those who were still not entirely in the grasp of the regime, however. For many, this was the last straw. Faith in Nzhdeh among the people began to crumble, and resistance to Nzdeh's government is organizing rapidly. What a tragedy. Are we going to have a coup? I don't know if we're going to have a coup. I didn't actually see that was a possibility. But I do think that at least for right now, this would be a good time for us to end this episode. Thank you to everybody for watching. Myself, Anthony, if you enjoyed, thumbs up. Not doing, click some down. Want to subscribe, and goodbye.